Sky Power Radio and TV Services Studios, West Yorkshire, Leeds, Stencil Mount. Welcome all on board our weekly civic education program. Today, Saturday, 13th of December 2025 at 17:11 UK time. Mustafa Jame is my name. Greetings to you all. Right, as announced on the page here, today our guest is Mr. Emmanuel Diouf, the chairperson of NHRC of the Gambia, National Human Rights. Mr. Emmanuel Diouf is not a stranger here. We would like to take this opportunity and say special thanks and appreciation to you, Mr. Diouf. Thanks for coming here, for the time and energy you take all the time. So if you reach out even at the last minute, you are always available to talk to us. Human being first than anything. Mr. Diouf, greetings to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jame. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and to appear on your program. And be rest assured that if I don't appear, usually there is a good reason why I could not appear. Maybe it's to do with availability or other things. And you know, I even told you I was suffering from a super flu, but you told me nonetheless I have to drink my medicine and come and talk to you. So I obeyed your orders. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Diouf. Much obliged. We'll go straight into days. In the first place, yesterday or on the 10th was International Human Rights Day in the world. I think it's World Human Rights Day, 10th of December. This is usually commemorated every year on yearly. But before we go any further, talk us through about the significance. What is the significance or the importance of this International Human Rights Day? Why is it celebrated, Mr. Diouf?
Yes, you are right. The 10th of December is worldwide today celebrated as International Human Rights Day. This is to commemorate the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which was adopted on the 10th of December 1948. Shortly after the end of the Second World War, which of course, as you know, resulted in gross violation of human rights. The powers that be at the time decided that we needed to be serious. If we're going to stop the scourge of war, we must address issues of human rights. And it was because of violation of fundamental human rights that resulted in the Second World War and other wars prior to that. So they felt that if man, or to be politically correct, if the human being, man, woman, are going to save themselves from the scourges of war, then we must adopt a charter, a declaration that recognizes and respects the fundamental right of every human being. And as a result, they came up with a text. This is the first text, universal text. Of course, other countries would have had their declarations internally, but this was the first one where the whole world, of course, yes, Gambia was under colonialism, but the world, the powers that be, decided that they had to adopt the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And in that document, you'll find it respects civil and political rights, economic, social, and cultural rights. All the fundamental rights of human beings were respected in that declaration. And then what happened immediately after that, subsequently, when, as you have also other countries becoming independent, other international conventions and treaties that came about, like the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, and all the other specific conventions on against discrimination, against racism, against discrimination against women, rights of the child, they all took their cue from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And from there, member states acceded to treaties, ratified treaties to be bound by fundamental human rights. So just also to tell you that if you look at today, the constitution of most countries, including our own constitution, in our case, chapter 4 of fundamental rights and freedom, Those rights that are listed in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights are rights that we Gambians accepted as binding, and these are rights that the National Human Rights Commission is also safeguarding by law. But we will elaborate on that. But this was just to give you a synopsis of the genesis of really Universal Declaration of Human Rights, because it was felt that if we do not address violations of human rights, then we will not get away from wars. And unfortunately, despite the advances in fundamental human rights, in our constitutions, in the treaties that we ratify, the human being, the way we are, we're still violating human rights, and we still have wars all over the place. And if you look at all the wars that we have, all the wars, if you ask them the causes of those wars, you'll find out that those fighting will tell you few things. They will tell you that our rights were not respected, we were marginalized, we're doing this because of corruption, which is also a human rights issue. We're doing that because we didn't have the right to help. We were marginalized because we are minorities. Our religions were not respected. So, so again, if you look at what is happening all over the world, human rights are important. So every year there is a theme. The chief of human rights, the UN human rights man, Volker Turk, who's at the driving seat. This year's theme is our everyday essentials, that human rights are our everyday essentials. Maybe as we start talking, I will unpack it and also try to make it relevant to our own context in the Gambia. But this year's theme is our everyday essential. Maybe you know, Mr. Jame, I have a habit of talking nonstop. So I will pause so that I allow you to direct the conversation.
It makes sense, you know, because we've got very limited time today. You'll be leaving shortly. But before you go, we need to have some go through some few key points, especially those that are very relevant to our community back home in the Gambia. So your commemoration, how did you commemorate this, like celebrate this, you know, the Gambian side of it, the Gambian branch? How did you do it?
Yes, okay. All over the world, people celebrate it in different ways. Some will have talks, some will have lectures, awareness raising, human rights jamboree. In our case, and this is what we have been doing for the last 6 years, we commemorated this day with what with our flagship moot court competition. Since our establishment, since the time we became operational, we felt that it was important that we Gambia was known as a country of human rights, and the period of Sadauda, God bless him with all his faults, it was, if you look at the landscape at the period from independence to 1994. And if you juxtapose that with how other African countries were, this was a country that respected fundamental rights and freedom. Not only did we do that, Sadauda was one of those leaders who spearheaded the African Charter of Human and People's Rights. And that is why today the Commission, the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, is based in the Gambia with a promotion, with a mandate to promote and protect human rights. So we felt that it was important that we have a moot. Universities, we will choose a very topical theme in the human rights arena. And then we have students, university students argue it out. So the first year of our moot court competition, it was just the University of the Gambia competing against themselves. But then again, later on, we decided, listen, you know what? Let us, because the African Commission is not bigger than Gambia. If we're doing a moot on human rights, let us make it Africa-wide. So we started inviting other African countries to compete. And that is why, unfortunately, the Gambia didn't even go to the finals this year, nor the semifinals. Last year, we were at the semifinals. So, so we had, this year, we had 2 universities who competed and went to the finals. One was the University of Benin in Nigeria, and the other one was a university in Kenya, Nazarene University, who ended up winning the competition. So what we do is we have a thematic, very topical area theme, and these students, these university students, will argue what is all human rights. So in this case, it was on climate change. Climate change. What we are doing is that we're trying to, at an early stage where you have these people training to be lawyers, to be au fait with human rights issues, so that even when they become practitioners, they understand the issues surrounding human rights. So this is what we did. And then it was very colorful. It was at the Sadauda Kairaba Center. That's where we held the finals. Family of Sadauda Kairaba were there to give the presents. We had lawyers from academia, international, who were the judges. So it was simulated. It was a simulated exercise where the students argued as if they were before the African Court of Human Rights in Arusha. So this is how we celebrated it. And we gave cash prizes and other prizes to the winners and others who also show outstanding advocacy skills. So this is how we celebrated that day.
This is extremely important, because whatever you do on this planet, the message you want to give to the general public, you want the message to sink in. So if this is a way to get the message sink into the community at the grassroots level, this is so important. But when it comes to the importance of this, how important is like if you say human right, how important is this in the Gambian context?
Okay, let me answer your question by actually also lifting from the theme of this year, which I think it's actually so simplified so that we can understand human rights also in the Gambian context, and where we are, what challenges we have, what we need to improve. So as I said, this year's theme was our everyday essential. So to answer your question, when we talk about fundamental human rights in the country, unfortunately, the period of Jame, he was very good at changing narrative to say that human rights were only Eurocentric and LGBTQ plus issues that have been pushed by the West. That is not true. Human rights is our everyday essential. What is the meaning of that? Human rights are inherent in every human being. Yeah, they are interdependent, they are indivisible. These are basic things. I will not try and be sophisticated by talking law. We're talking at basic things, everyday essential, right to safety. You want to leave your house and feel that you are safe. You're not going to be attacked by criminals. You're not going to be attacked by a state agent, like used to happen during the time of Yahya Jammeh. But this is your fundamental human rights as a human being, your freedom of safety, your freedom of shelter. You know, you right to decent housing. The state is the executive body, is supposed to respect, protect, and fulfill. So they must, even towards the attainment of that right, they must facilitate that process. Right to shelter, right to food, right to clean water, right to health, right to education, right to peace, freedom of expression, dignity, fairness, right of disabled persons, right of women and all the vulnerable groups. This is what we're talking about. Who does not want these things? This is very basic. Now, how we attain it is we will go through it. I'll break it down, but I want everybody to understand that when we talk about human rights, we are not just talking about textbook, legal, Western ideas. We are talking about you, Mr. Jammeh, your children being able to access education, your children being able to access health services. The government is the duty bearer. They must respect, protect, and fulfill. But also, as right holders, human rights is also both horizontal and vertical. We started when we were talking about other rights. You will discover that sometimes it's not only the state that can violate your rights, your neighbors can violate your rights. I will not want to give an example of what we talked about before we started. Yeah, but this is what I also explain to people, that human rights, sometimes we also concentrate too much on just the horizontal aspect. It's both horizontal and vertical. So if we are going to live in peace and harmony, And this is where I think I started. If we're going to have a society, you can never have a perfect society. And I think since the creation of the human race, we've been trying to. We are a conflict-prone society. This is the way we are as human beings. Whether we like it or not, we have egos. We will have leaders who will want to go to war. Even within your family members, you will have those that you have to grease their wheels to stop trouble. But but I think what is important is that when we talk about human rights, we must respect the rights of others as well. And this is very important, because if we do not have a nation that respects the fundamental rights of the people who live within that state, and if we do not respect each other's rights, then it will be a society of conflict. And that's why I told you, if you look at all the wars, whether it's religion, whether it's internal civil wars, or even external, if you look at it, there is always an element of violation of human rights. And so coming back home, I mentioned that the Gambia, maybe we started having human rights when we didn't even understand those issues. Because if you look at and I will send you a book that the NHRC conducted a research on the Gambia from 1965 to 1994. When, for example, Sadauda went to the AU in those days, all the African heads of states, some of them were treating their citizens very badly, torture, extrajudicial killings, and Sadauda actually took them on. All of them at the time will only talk about human rights when it came to apartheid South Africa, or those that were still under colonialism. And I remember Sadauda, before the African Charter, said, listen, we need to also look inwards. How are we treating our people? Are we giving them the freedom of expression? Are we giving them the right to vote? You remember, a lot of countries, even Senegal, had one-party states. You know, this was the nature of the way things were. But fast forward that, then we entered the regime of Yahya Jammeh. Of course, he came in gave good, well, as always military men do, reasons. The government had overstayed. The PPP, probably they did overstay, that it was corrupt, and many things. But what happened was, in the process, although we still had it in our constitution, fundamental rights and freedom, I don't have to tell you, this is not Emmanuel Diouf making up the stories now. The period, the truth-seeking, the TRRC had revealed to us, sometimes we forget, but the TRRC, if you look at all its 17 volumes, it gave us a litany of what happened during that period. And what happened during that period? There were fundamental violations of human rights. Human rights were violated.
Mr. Yes. Diouf, before you go further, this definitely reminds me of, if I may ask, what are some of the main issues of human right violation in the Gambia? Because currently, as we speak, it looks like, number one, we seems to be sitting on a timing bomb. Because if you look around, the level of human right violations in the Gambia is extreme, I would say. If what we call, like in your definition, what you define as human right is basic, fundamental basics, like right to live, right to food, clothing, shelter, right to safety, right to that sort of things, and all, even right to electricity, right to safety, and all that, and right to justice. So if you look at the TRRC has happened in the Gambia, and the recommendations are there. Clearly, we all know, we all seen it. But by the look of it, people who has been adversely mentioned seems to be walking freely in the Gambia. Families who happen to be the victims are still mourning. That means there's a lot of that means human right violations are ongoing in the Gambia. But some of these things happening, Mr. Diouf, what do you think is the problem? Why has not? Why did the government or I don't know if it's got to do with you, not take actions about the resolutions of these TRRC or the recommendations of TRRC to implement them, because a lot of people are mourning and crying. You can see the Gambian people who are adversely mentioned still walking freely in town. That is a sign of sitting on a timing bomb, Mr. Juve. Am I right?
Okay, you've said a lot of things, and I have a lot of information, and I know a lot. Not that I'm just claiming that I know a lot, but if you let me just, a lot of Gambians, unfortunately, they sometimes do not follow these things deeply. When the TRRC recommendations were made, sent to the government, the NHRC was one of those institutions that was pushing the government to accept the recommendation. And we were very happy when the government came up with a white paper. The white paper accepted almost all of the 263 recommendations. That's what they did. But the government delayed, however, in coming up with an implementation plan, which now they have done. The implementation plan is out, and guess what? The National Human Rights Commission has been the body that is mandated to monitor the implementation of the TRRC and also report yearly to the National Assembly. I don't know whether you are getting me. So we have done the third report. I will send you all the links and all the reports electronically of where we are with the TRRC. What the government has also, yes, has there been slow implementation in some areas? Yes. Has something been done? Yes. So let me start. And it's not that I'm trying to I'm painting the government's lily white. I am not. I am just speaking to the facts as they are, and we can all find it because the reports are there. Yes, these if you look at the recommendations, there are many, 263 with many. So the government today has accepted. As I speak to you now, finally, we have what is called the Reparation Commission. Are you aware that the Reparation Commission, an act of the National Assembly was passed, and now we have the Reparation Commission, and they are now sitting and considering reparation? Maybe you don't know that. That has happened. I want to also tell you, there has been the area that has been extremely slow in the area of implementation. If you read the recommendations of the TRRC recommended that 69 people should, that those were the names as those who carried out the gravest human rights violation, that they should be prosecuted. And the names are there. Yaya Jame, Sandamanyang, Solo, whatever. Most of them. The list is very clear that they should be prosecuted. This was slow going, but let me tell you, finally, we have had what is called the Office of the Prosecution. An act of the National Assembly was passed. So the Special Prosecutor's Office will start working in January, February of this year. Finally, they have shortlisted the prosecutor, will not be a Gambian, to start the prosecution. If you have been following, there is what is called special mechanism and the hybrid court, which ECOWAS has finally agreed to help the Gambia set up the hybrid court, where the reason why the hybrid court is going to be set up is because the offenses, the alleged offenses that those who are named, those 69 that name, if you charge, some of those offenses do not exist in our statute books at the time that they committed those offenses. So if we have a hybrid court, you can then charge them offenses like enforced disappearance, crimes against humanity, torture, which was, the Torture Act was just recently enacted in the Gambia. So I just want to, on paper, and these are things I will also tell you where the government is perhaps failing. But as far as the TRRC is concerned, the area of prosecution, the government has been very slow. But the Office of the Special Prosecution, the act was passed. The Special Prosecution Office will start in January. Investigation, there will be the prosecution investigation will start. Yes, reparation has been slow since the TRRC. The TRRC had interim reparations. You probably know or you don't know. At the time, the TRRC was sitting there, I think, but what they gave was only 19% of the reparation. But thank God, now we have a reparation commission that is on. Yes, there are people who have been adversely mentioned. They have adversely mentioned, and you see them in the Gambia. But just to tell you that as the body that was named as the body to monitor the implementation, one of the things that we did was the names that people that were mentioned that should not hold office. Once we started our work as the monitoring body, we wrote to the Ministry of Justice to make sure that all those that were mentioned and were still working in the service should be relieved of their duties. It took time. One of them, I'll not mention name, we discovered even who left the army and was redeployed to immigration. And when he was traced, we sent that information and the person was dismissed. So there has been things that have been happening, but the government needs to do more. I am happy now that they have what is called the post-TRRC unit, headed by either person, the post-TRRC unit, and now they are the driving force in making sure that the recommendations of the TRRC are passed back.
Mr.
Yeah.
This is you're talking about years now for them to take a step. If you can't count numbers, that is supposed to happen in years. That doesn't look good. So why is it taking government that long to make that decision, or to practice, or to put this out there, or to to make them feel this is the right thing to do? Why is it taking government this long? Why, Mr. Diouf?
Okay. I am not holding brief for the government, but just to also tell you, as an NHRC, myself and even other victims group, we went all the way to South Africa because we wanted to learn from South Africa how it was the best way to accelerate the implementation of the TRRC. We went to study other places, and I would want you to do research on TRRC recommendations in other countries, and they can be frustrating. They can be really frustrating. It was even worse in Liberia, where the documents were even stolen and taken away. And the problem there was because those that were named to be prosecuted became part of the government. So that TRRC does have its own problem. I'm just trying to explain to you. But and this is one of the things that we feared as an independent institution, was that the government will not have the political will. And this was the time that we pushed. When we came from that study tour, we came with lessons learned and what the government should do. And I'm sure the government was not even happy in the way the NHRC was pushing them by having two national convergence. So yes, it's slow, but okay. But let me just say something, and I will advise you to invite also I will give you her details, the head of the post-TRRC unit, who's based at the Ministry of Justice, who is spearheading now all this process. Thank God they have now somebody working with the Ministry of Justice, but partly independent. But let me just explain something. You had to, with the reparations, you had to actually have a mechanism to have proper reparations. And we actually pushed them that reparation that was even done by the TRRC was haphazard. So a whole act had to be passed, an act of the National Assembly with commissioners on an ad hoc basis who will sit down and even open. They have actually asking people who suffered during that period to come back if they were not even given chance to go to the TRRC. So to set up systems does take time. I'm telling you because I've worked in an institution which I had to build from scratch. I had only 5 commissioners. Today I have 54 staff. So again, I'm not holding brief for the government. There are times in which I feel that they need to push the envelope. Sometimes we really believe that the political will is not there, and that is why we need to push the political demand. So now we have that. Now for prosecution, to prosecute you really need very independent institution. And we all supported an independent prosecution unit, which is not even headed by a Gambian. The chief prosecutor will not, because again, you understand the intricacies of the Gambia. So if you ask me, there has been challenges, but to be honest, the movements have been made. And this is why I am just listening to you, that there is a special accountability mechanism. The ECOWAS has now agreed to assist us with the setting of a hybrid court. So, but we need to, of course, when the prosecution office starts, then the process will start, even extradition of those that have been named. They'll have to investigate. They will have to start the whole process. Again, I'm not saying that the government has not, and of course, we all have our suspicion, especially when elections are coming. You wonder, is it because of that? And I think these are legitimate questions we should all ask. And we in our own ways as NHRC, when we are in closed doors, these are the issues that we also ask. And we should all do that, because we know that politicians may not, especially when it comes to issues like voters, and if they feel that a particular group may not vote for them, they may drag their feet. But yes, but this to set up the process required money. And I'm happy to say that the EU and others have actually given the word that they will support the whole process. So it's going along, albeit slowly, and we are monitoring and we are reporting to the National Assembly. But again, you mentioned, but I just had to mention issues about the TRRC, because and we have 3 reports, and I will send you all those reports. You will know, and yes, you are right, especially the first report. You will see that the government, almost the first year of their implementation, they did very little. The second year, a slight improvement. The third year, there was more improvement because of the emergence of the post-TRRC unit. We'll send you all the documents, and it's very comprehensive. It's very open, and also with commentary, where the government is failing, what the government needs to do, because we also have an advisory role in the whole process. But now, talking about human rights, let us look at the holistic approach here of the process, because we must also have a baseline. And I'm not going to paint everything nice. If we have the baseline of 2017 coming up, at the time of Yahya Jammeh, yes, there has been improvement. Why? What am I saying? Why am I saying that? Okay, to start with, unfortunately, again, many people may not read the National Human Rights Commission by law is required to submit an annual report of the human rights landscape in this country, and it covers everything relating to human rights: unlawful arrest and detention, extrajudicial killings, torture, the complaints that we receive, what has been done, what has not been done, and also our activity report. This we submit, and it's also uploaded in our website. So we know exactly what is happening. So let me quickly maybe talk about improvements, and then we look at these issues that are of great concern to all Gambians. And if we're not careful, if we are not careful, we may backslide to where we were. But to be honest, during the last period, since the establishment of the NHRC, in our mapping, there's no extrajudicial killings. It's gone. Thank God. The incidents of torture are reported, but very minimal. Again, I'm basing this on our report and when we find out these things, what is done. And in the area of unlawful detention, again, do they happen? Of course, they occasionally happen. Are they like before? No. But again, maybe we have now gone past 2017. That should not be the yardstick. But human rights, it's work in progress. And in the event where people are calling for questioning, you will find out whether it is a press release that we take out. Sometimes, in fact, 75% of what we do is not even in the form of press release, because the government has even accused us of not giving them the right advice. So what we do, easily when things like this we feel is bordering on lawful arrest, we go straight to the authorities. And I'm telling you, there are many instances when people are actually either released even before the 72 hours. It is because of the intervention of the NHRC, whether it's made public or not. I'm just explaining to you. No, but let me just say that these things are again. There have been instances of police heavy-handedness. Again, it's out there. It's out there, and then of course what happened in Mandinari, and it's interesting that if you had read just 2-3 weeks press release that we sent to the police, was if they carry out their heavy-handedness, this may result in exactly what happened in Mandinari. Although the matter is sub judice, there is a coroner's inquest. I don't want to dwell into it that much, but yes, these are incidents that are there. But let me tell you, people, civil society is more active, whether we like it or not. People are voicing out. People are challenging the acts of the executive. They are challenging them. They're challenging them. We have a more independent judiciary, although sometimes we may not even like the decision that that the judiciary. Yeah. So yes, go on.
You know, I'm not young whole time. Why don't fit them?
We still have another about 20 minutes. Man, do it down. Do I be do it down? Sunny and Basuke. Dina de
Assalamu alaikum, Chairman. How are you? Thank you so much. Sorry that I, run a little bit late. Thank you so much for always coming here to help us understand some of these issues. Yeah, I have just one question for you to clarify for our viewers, because the commission role is monitoring, isn't it? An advisory role. So in monitoring, how does it go? Pursuing viewers here understand, because I know a lot of people are very clear, because they got ordinary people, but human right new way, then you know that they're talking about the commission that has intervened, being then RSA, being then detained. That seems to be very clear and rooted to the people. The monitoring, what role be nakala de? Are you monitoring the health?
Yeah. So our mandate, therefore broad. It's very broad. It's promotion and protection of human rights. In the process of doing that, monitoring is only one aspect, but we receive individual complaints. For numatogeni, suma fundi dega muneting, amna lui health salaji. Suma investigators. I actually have investigators, and my investigators, that's why our report is independent of the police. I have investigators, some are former police officers who are vetted, some lawyers. So we have a whole unit on investigation. We receive complaints. But just to tell you something, I also, with my commissioners, we have what we call quasi-judicial powers. If, for example, there is a problem that is happening, we liaise with the police. We can set up a tribunal. We have done that a couple of times. The most famous one was the Gorgimbub case, where Gorgimbub and all they came to answer, and the law gives us the powers of High Court to subpoena and even hold people for contempt. And in fact, funny enough, I'm just telling you this, 3-4 weeks ago, we had a closed door meeting with the Office of the IGP, because there are certain issues that were not solved. We told them that if it is not solved within a particular period, we will issue a subpoena. And once you issue a subpoena, everybody will know that. Well, it's about time that, because the law gives us that power. But Amala just explain monitoring, swing no monitor, more swing dig na dara heuna, new dem set land more hell. But swing monitor, we'll have to either write a report, do the investigation, and then go to the appropriate authority. For example, it could be anything. It could be a fire at the Majalis. Like you have information there, children are being beaten there. We send our investigators. Then we will quickly go and talk to the Ministry of Gender and the police and tell them that you are the ministry responsible for making sure, protecting, respecting, and fulfilling. What are you doing? In fact, the minister always laughs when he sees me, Munema, what trouble is there again in the country? I'm just trying to explain to you how it works. And a lot of this, if you are following our Facebook page, but please, our reports will and activity will actually tell you what we do. And I might just explain one of the many things that we do. So whenever there is incident that happens, our investigators are out there in the field getting an independent version and not what the police tell us, because that is how we were set up under the UN Paris principles. But also we don't stop that. So whole section 12 of our act gives us a long mandate. We have an advisory role to the government. So for government be there balangen your castigate waron ngeen your advice. How man understand ga limawa. So lele guy def naka si dun nonu ñu gëna because we feel no. This is not. The next thing they will send, well, as the advisory body, you should have actually warned us. So what we do, sometimes we warn and just give. With the commissioners, we said, well, if nothing happens within the next 48 hours, we will escalate. I'm just trying to explain to you the many things that we do. But not only that, we have the mandate to build the capacity of security sector reform. So ding is lele, and this is what we constantly do with the police and the army and the immigration. Their training curriculum, we have actually changed the modules so that it will have human rights modules. These are all documents. So let them web page so that, and the reason is that the TRRC said in the recommendations that the NHRC should look at the training, the way these people are trained, so that they will start understanding human rights principles. So we do a lot of that throughout the length and breadth of this country. So whole issues relating to hate speech. Not long ago, we called the Supreme Islamic Council, Christian Council, the Ahmadiyya sect, all of them, because it was important. In the study that was done on hate speech, it was discovered that the main perpetrators of hate speech in this country are mainly politicians and some sects of the religious groups. So we therefore, not only do we do research, this is a well-documented research to change policy, but we also bring them all. It was a 2-day convergence that was held, high-powered, with government, with Supreme Islamic Council, Christian Council. So there is a lot of things that the NHRC does. Our mandate is very broad, although some people will want us to do just a particular thing. For example, I'm just using it. Bori is my friend. I know. Maybe we do something. I'm just explaining that. They're going NHRC. What about the Auditor General? And you will be very surprised that the NHRC is the first to tell the government to adhere to section so and X, Y, and Z. We do this, and all these things is documented not only for today, but for tomorrow. and we do that. But just to tell you, even next week we are going to have a closed door, what we call the courtesy closed door meeting with Borom Dekabi. Lulu mom ñun rek ñoo dé tok ak mom teju ñu ko am next week, and this is the time we speak the hanga su newspaper yi nekkut fofu ak you can say what you want. Ba pare mom itam he can say what he wants. We also do that. I'm just explaining because maybe I still need to explain in detail what the role of NHRC is. But for NHRC is this. It's not only Gambia that has it. Actually, it's the UN that advises all countries over the world to have an NHRC. So in some countries they are called national human rights institutions, and not only to have them, but they're created under what is known as the UN Paris principles. In the way we are even selected. Danga gis ne minyo selecté sa su fekkee ne président Barrow moo amoon rek right bi pour ne Emmanuel Diouf kii ak kii ñooy then they will not grade us A. By the way, we are an A status NHRC because the Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions and the UN based in Geneva, they had done a whole audit of the work that we do, and within a period of 3 years, they gave us an A status. Senegal, our neighbor, has been B for the last 10 years. Okay, I'm saying all this for understand the way we operate. And then even budget. I don't answer to the Minister of Justice although sometimes I know they may not be very happy about that. But the only institution that I answer to is the National Assembly, who I submit my report, and they can call me. And I also call on them if I make recommendations. A particular ministry is dragging their feet. We tell them to call them both. And this has happened. They will call them. Why are you not doing X, Y, and Z? Okay, NHRIs as well, although according to the law, we must be given a budget by the government. There is operational budget. But again, I don't get it through. It's something that we negotiate with finance, and the National Assembly has the right to say. But I also have the powers to do resource mobilization, which I do. A lot of my programs that I do, if you see me all over the place, yes, funding from government, but also from development partners. And development partners are only funding us because they believe we are doing the right thing. Let me just add extra. Do you know that every report, treaty report that the government, so government be reported to the UN, they've done X, Y, and Z, we send our complementary report. So you let Geneva, talk next door. But a lot of people don't know. Our mandate is so wide that within a short period, I've had gray hair, and I'm actually looking forward for my term to end so that I have a normal life. Because I get this from, no, but I'm saying this, it may sound like a joke, but let me tell you, you don't have friends. Luma mean by that, yes. NPP, Dinaj Masaga. No. They did. There was a period they did even a Photoshop, Mangitil lawyer Dabo, Mike. Understand? They said very bad things about me, NPP. Then the next day, UDP will because they don't know what we said or what we didn't do or they expect, they will put me like a dog on a leash. Why? But it's okay. I have developed now a thick skin. I even laugh when I see these things because my wife the other day was telling me that I have really graduated. Somebody wrote something very outrageous and I was laughing. He said, before you used to be sensitive. I said, but it's a public office. What I'm saying, therefore, is that you don't make friends. Today, your friends, and it's normal. Man, I believe that when we are like that, because we are not civil society, we are not also mainstream government. So we cannot be bantering to. So when the government does something wrong, we have to. I'm just coming from Janjambure. I did a whole scanning, and my other commissioners and staff were in this area of the prison systems. I will send you the thing recently on the prisons. That was purely monitoring to see whether our prisons are in accordance with the Mandela rules, because the Mandela principles has a list of ways in which you treat your prisoners, in the treatment, the medical care you give them, and all these other things. So, but anyway, sorry, you asked me a question. Your program in the morning, you will time 2 sessions. You break down everything. You know, because I think I have a lot to say. The most pressing things. Why? You have 2 series. You divide it will be easier. Openly, but even talk about my frustrations and my challenges, because the energy, and I am one of those chairpersons. Until I leave, I will be very open, because some who didn't know me then say that these are hustlers who want their contracts to be renewed. No, I am on a term. I'm on a term limit. I don't want my contract to be renewed. And also, I did work about 13, 14 years out of the Gambia. It's a job I enjoy doing, but it's good that we talk about these things. But also, people have a right to sometimes say these things. So we also have to develop thick skin and also maybe explain to people. Sometimes it's genuine. For example, I'm not your man. Yes, we all have a right to have perception. Do know, I'm not right. Lila explaining, okay, Lila, did allow hitam, because we also have our limitations. For example, the issue of the Public Order Act. So all as in reports here, we have done advocacy, but the law, we don't make the law. We can advise the government, but if the government is stubborn,
I know.
Yeah.
Mr.
But,
Youth,
but for example, but for example, if you look at the criminal, let me just finish. Small sister, they have like you, but so the like is even to do with law reform in the country. We just have the our new criminal code. Do you know the NHRC? We took National Assembly 3 days. They let you retreat. They can't to look clause by clause. Again, people will not know that. But the reason was for them to appreciate the certain laws relating to maybe the media, relating to the death penalty. Maybe we should review them. We did that 3 days with the national. So we do a lot of things. Okay, Mustafa, Yama invite. Mantoma invite you. I'm sorry.
But it's very good. It's very good, Chair, because yes, I was laughing because when you're doing good job, of course, there will be two phases of it. Though some will attack, some will say something. But I must say the Human Rights Commission is one of the institutions that Gambians seems to really have trust in it. And that's also back to your leadership, because as I said, you hear a lot of people saying, when you see a human right, no. Even the police will say, yeah, when we arrest them, the human right will come and say, leave him or this. So you hear those things. That tells you that people get the information. And yeah, and I hope that you will continue for another term before you leave us, because it's a critical situation we are in at the moment. And young don't want escalate. Mustafa Balama, just there because I want the listeners to just get this. Because sometimes I tag the National Human Rights Commission a lot on issues that are happening.
You do. Yes, you do.
And what I want to clear for people to get it there, Yangi wane solen the face and advice or recommendation, and then it's been ignored. You sometimes escalate. Can you explain that? So let's escalate it and you name institution, or you go in public like sometimes we seeing in your press release.
Wow. Okay. Mr. Youth, Balanganyo Fufu, can you answer that in 3 minutes? I want to honor the time you said you said you got a meeting.
Yeah, he's going.
You said you got a meeting at 15:15 or so. You're going.
No, so, quarter past, 20 past. Fima them is a 10 minutes drive.
Okay, so 20 past, you've got 17 minutes. So, Bini, can you answer this in 4 minutes?
Why? Boomer restrict, why? Bye, Mama. Well, anyway, just to say, yes, I think we are doing a lot of work, and perhaps we need to showcase and people know our results and impact. I think that is important, but we are not perfect. And that is why criticism sometimes is unfair, but it also makes us look back and say, okay, maybe we need to do this better. But let me tell you something. Luma Kontan Lo we are good need. Somebody who was arrested at the police station, and it was getting close to the 72 hours, and they didn't even give him the thing of a lawyer. It was a police officer in that police. Kukoneko, so kole NHRC, you will be granted a lawyer. Bail. I was so happy that it was a police within the institution who felt this right is being abused. But if quietly, muneko wahal sagay you call NHRC. No, but to me, Somalaje, it is a small victory, but to me that was great. If the police are actually spying on themselves and say go to the NHRC, so okay, so that is that. Mangi started with the party dance. I have my own question.
Escalation. How do you?
Wow. Okay. So, lady, there are different ways in which we react, and we have to be very careful. What I say is, Lota, NHRC. We send our investigators because we have been embarrassed twice, where the information we got was not true. I'm just telling you, and the police, they love this. When we tell them X and they gave us completely, and in those cases they were right, and we were embarrassed. So when we even get information that 200 people are arrested, they will be beaten, doing them said, because we also have institutional reputation. We mainstream government So again, so what we do when we usually get this information, or when something we write straight away, or we call X, Y, and Z is happening. this is the way the NHRC sees it. You need to rectify it now. If they don't, press release is one of the, this is one. But what we also do is we actually go directly. You heard me say, I knock at the doors of of some ministers. I'm not a minister. Problem or amati. So, but another way that we can escalate, we involve National Assembly. There is the Standing Committee on Human Rights and Constitutional Matters. This is the body that we deal with very effectively. When there is something that is happening that we feel the executive is being extremely funny or otherwise, we get them. And these are the bodies that can summon me and the particular minister or whoever. That's another way of escalating. Another way of escalating is when we decide that no, this needs a hearing. Lota Manela, we can sit as a tribunal. We have done about three tribunal sittings where we sit, we call witnesses, whether it's the police or that side. This is the form of escalation we do. But there is another form of escalation. I was robed I was in court just the other day. We went to court. We as a Human Rights Commission, although we avoid it, we only go to court on public interest issues because otherwise that is the job of the legal aid. But this is an issue relating to FGM where there are petitioners who are claiming that the FGM Act, criminalizing FGM, is unconstitutional and it should be repealed. So we decided that we should be a party, because if you remove issues relating to women's rights, child marriage will be a problem. FGM. So we actually even went to court. We were robed fully with my team and we are in court. This is another thing, but that's also an escalation. We usually don't do that. But these are the different forms of escalation that we do. But also remember that we have access to treaty bodies. The Gambia is also a member of the UN. And remember, sometimes the indicators, the budget indicators, there was a particular indicator. If we did not satisfy that indicator, we were going to lose some millions of dollars. So I'm just telling you also, and we know where to push the button here and there. So there are forms of escalation, but usually it's good to engage at that level and get the right things done. Sorry, it didn't take 3 minutes, but I tried. It took maybe 6 minutes.
Thank you for that. Mustafa, I have lots of questions, but we don't have the time. Maybe as the chairman said, we can break it because they are ordinary people.
Hello, sorry, you are breaking a bit.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Yeah. Yes, I said that I have a couple of questions. You can
fire another one there. You can fire another one. He will answer in 2 minutes.
Okay, another question.
Oh, you are breaking. Unfortunately, you are even gone.
Let me.
I think no, Mr.
You are going in and out.
It's you. Not there. I don't think it's there. I think it's you. I think it's got to do with your line there, Mister. I think it's not you. It's Emmanuel himself. His line is not.
Oh yeah. Okay, I thought it's me. That's why I'm like, okay, now I'm becoming. I was going out saying that I'm becoming like Gambian now.
he was having an incoming call also. I think he's using his phone because he's got a meeting at 6:30 in the next 20 minutes, so he might be getting some calls.
So it was really good to have him to explain. Can you explain that because a lot of us are more book along what the role of the Human Rights Commission is, or hanni ya long fanang inyanta menkela dandula be muneto e kam muneke be kol menke kam, because the fako mol bukeje sometimes in call to people interpret it differently, but I know ko minga mo mol ka foko human right le nata jang ning human right le diam dan tata human right, then I know ko is the commission.
I am back.
Yes. Yeah, German.
I have 10 minutes. I'll have 10 minutes.
Your time.
I have 10
now,
minutes.
Does the commission have the early warning role, which when the patterns of abuse start to reappear? Because when I came in, you hear you talking about backlash and backsliding. But yeah, do you have that where you have those early warning to do that early warning role when the patterns of abuse coming, well, when we are seeing it start to reappear?
In 2 minutes.
Well, okay. You were breaking. Maybe, Jamie, you can repeat what she said. It seems I can hear you more than her. I only heard you say 2 minutes. What do you want me to say in 2 minutes?
Does the have an early warning role when patterns of abuse start to reappear?
Do you have an early warning role when they say the pattern seems to appear or starts appearing?
Patterns of abuse.
Oh yes, we do.
Abuse, yes.
Yes, we do. We definitely do. And we definitely do, and we raise the red flag. And we have done that in certain instances. And it had actually, by pushing especially the respective institution to move. And this is what we do. The red flags, even the issue of hate speech coming from politicians. These are red flags for us, and this is one of that was why we conducted a study, held a convergence, a conference, and we are escalating this. In fact, one of the things we are going to do in the first year when we come back in January, to do a complete round to all the head of political, the heads of political leaders in this country, to take them to task, together with the IEC. That some of them nyokotas, because these statements that are coming, and it's right across, and we've told them that the NHRC will not be used as a ping pong, because what happens is you'll find one group say this, and then when we said something, then they said, well, but this what we need is political maturity from the top of the leaders. If you have people saying things in the name of your party, come out and condemn it. But anyway, we have a strategy, but I'm just saying that these are many early warning things that we have seen some signs that we need to nip them in the bud that are happening. We have seen a lot of bigotry that is also happening from some sides, some kind of religious bigotry. So these are red flags that as an institution, we are mapping the environment and we take them up. Yes, there is definitely early warning is one of the many things that we do.
Thank you. I've got two for you. I've got two for you in 3 minutes. Your challenges to explore that. So before you come to your challenges, you've been around a countrywide tour about the state of the prisons in the country. The whole country, you've been there. Talk to us about the state of the prisons in the Gambia. What are your thoughts? What are your observations? What are some of your conclusions? And take us through some of the challenges you have generally, and then we can let you go, Mr. Juf.
So you want me to do all this in 3 minutes? Okay. The prison visits, it was not only prisons, but also detention facilities. So these are police cells where they keep detainees, at least, if they're not given police bail, after 72 hours, they have to bring them before a court, and then it will be the remand wing. So but those police cells, there are standards. But I must admit that the crop of police officers that I met, one of them even praised us by showing us that 2 years ago when we did the monitoring, they even condemned some of those cells that they used to keep people up in the provinces because it didn't have ventilation, it was hot. So still there is room for improvement, but I must admit that when we went, there are places that were really improved. That improved the way they kept the prisoners, among other things. And the good thing is that when we're talking to detainees or prisoners, the police are not, we tell them to excuse us completely, because we do not want any intimidation. And we get to hear firsthand from those people. So prisons, much needs to be done. If you know, and this is something we pushed even when we saw His Excellency last year, that we need a new prison. If you've been following, finally the government said that they're condemning Mile 2. They're now building a new prison near, is it after Birkama? If you have been following, because that place is not really fit for, it's too old. The remand wing is bad. So there have been improvements. If you go the kitchen here and there, but the remand wing is still bad because it's overcrowded. The nature of the place was to hold very few prisoners. Today, it's just overcrowded. So I will not say that the place is good. Of course, it's much better than 2017 because there are some cells now that are not used at all. But the prison conditions need to be improved, and we are happy that the government has said they are now going to build a new prison, and I hope that they do that. They told us that 18 months ago when we did a comprehensive report that it was going to be Joshua. Now they said they're going to move it to somewhere. They've named the place. I think it's after Birkama or whatever. So, okay. So there needs to improvement in those facilities. But you will be surprised, even the places that these police officers stay and their offices, it's terrible. These places are so terrible that though GIZ has been helping by building model police stations. So if you come nowadays, you'll see the model police stations, and they're going to build more. An area that they really need to focus on is Basse. We were not happy with the overcrowding, but there is a new police model station that is being built with GIZ. So improvements are being made, but they need to accelerate the pace. Yes. Janjambure prisons, again, there is a need for the prisoners don't have more room for recreation. We spoke with them. Of course, incidents, there were no incidents of torture, as they told us, really. They were not happy with sometimes the food, the quality of the food. And I was happy when one of them was telling me that he has a big problem. And when I tried to find out, he told me that he likes jumbo in his food and they're not allowing him to use jumbo. But okay, I'm saying this is anecdotal, but I was thinking it was much more of a serious problem. But we will not stop, we will not relent. Prisons conditions in this country need to be improved. And as we told the prisons, we told the IGP and others that the prisons are placed in Africa. They are usually a transit point for those coming to power or exiting. So don't think that the prisons, especially in Africa, are only meant for criminals. Yeah. So, and I think Gambia has enough examples of that. The hunted became the hunted. Those who were even abusing people in prison also became captive. So, and we didn't mince our words in that area. But yes, answer, there is room for improvement. Much room for improvement. Slight improvements have been done, but there is room for improvement. And I hope and wish that the government quickly gets the resources to build a proper police station, especially one for the youths. It really takes my heart. You have young people being put there for cannabis. You know, that's not their place. They should be educated. They should be given skills. But I must thank MRC Holland. Really, they are building skill centers within the police, within the prisons. And in fact, in one of the structures that they're building in Basse, one of them was a person, a masoner, who was in prison, who learned his skills there. Some are they're training them to be plumbers, electricians, and masoners. That's what we need in our prisons. MRC Holland is doing a good job. Room for improvement.
Don't forget.
Did I leave? Okay, challenges of NHRC. And I leave you. Like every institution, we have our challenges. To start with, I wish I have more staff to cover all the regions. Thank God now I have a regional office in Basse, covering both URR and CRR. I also have a regional office in Farafenye, covering CRR, covering Lower River region and North Bank region. So we have gone out there to the people, but human rights are important. They have to be at the doorstep of everybody. Access to justice, access to rights. So if I have my way, I will have more funds to have offices in all the regions. The other challenge is, so resources is a fund. I am trying hard. The government has finally agreed to give us land to build our secretariat. We need, this is an institution permanent. And all of you, whether Emmanuel Diouf goes or not, make sure that this institution stays, make sure that this institution is independent, and it will, whether it is a UDP government, NPP, UAP, or whatever, politicians are all the same, you know that. You see them changing, speaking from different sides of their mouth when they change. We have people who have praised us. When they move, they criticize us. And this is very important about human rights. We have to own human rights. It should be part of our culture, so that it doesn't even matter which political party we belong. We should be speaking truth to authority. We should know that if you violate the rights of Ndai, whether Ndai belongs to NPP today or UDP or is a Muslim or Christian or Ahmadiyya, this is not done. This is how Gambians should start thinking. Unfortunately, we have not gone beyond that. And most of our criticisms are actually by those who one time praise us, then they move, then they criticize us, and they zigzag. But it should not be that. It should not be that, because human rights is everybody's business. Let us make this institution strong. We have an independent, and it's permanent. It's not a civil society institution, as I tell you. It's based on the UN Paris principles. We are not, so we have powers. Let us make sure that National Assembly gives us the powers, make sure that these powers are sustained. I think, Mr. Jame, Ndai, I will come back on another time when we can unpack and have maybe different themes, so that maybe I can even go into detail with the TRRC and explain more, so that we can look at things that are working, that are not working, and other thematic areas. But I thank you very much, well, season's greetings to you.
Yeah, we thank you so much, Chairman, for having the time with us. We have people who are sending lots of questions, but of course, time doesn't permit that. But we will have you back. And thank you so much for your time. This is really relevant. And as you said,
those questions, I will answer them when I come back.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you
Mr.
so
much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye now. Okay.
This is really excellent. We will try to have the chairman again and break it in different, and Mustafa, as you're saying, we break it into different segments so that it's easier to go into detail, because human rights is becoming really a critical issue in the country. Talking about the backsliding, talking about going back into that, talking about the TRRC implementation and the new developments we are seeing. Some people being arrested, you don't arrest. So fonga singa be jube saje the commission asikol be bondi nyamo kono for the kujama bije fanal bukalong, ko they can even prosecute, they can even isisino le ye makoy loyal to kujama bije me alonko mol salonko ni e muta lawyer table isi human right command nole isaje fanale taraje ye makoy wo be katara yekos mo jama katara mutarin ko di table ila family malo ibe damen imam fenso de mekela but say ngalonko isi human right, so it will be good ila number mol fana ya soto ke commandi wato what. And I think, I'm not sure, but ngamira ila number is 24 hours, Mustafa. I'm not sure. Yes. But it would be 24 hours. Isaje ko niman lawyers so yata hani jang the same thing them. You have free retial, you have all these lawyers that you can take, you call them and then get it, and the state pay. So Wofanang is very important. So Mustafa, over to you. I don't know.
Yes. I observation dantan for jande mi alonko akumata bake certain observations minibako where to go in case near problem also kula mimbe dending human right violations la because it all multi mini alonko ning police only arrest ise commandino pour ini diamu ya foyeko ngamara 72 hours period min bije pour yo honor. And then Nimfula Nyambala, it all Isembo, Ibuke Dankuman Sakunala, the only Sembo Dankuman all on National Assembly. So you Sembo Sudolaminka, but a cookilim Panambila Kuru Mi Alanko, Sawos and Gamera Sawos and Nom, you can report all the Dapurka Jacoman Sakunda, Betama Kanyadile, ya submit to UN. So Gamera all mufende de Mi Alonko, Mokuma Balom Purke long, ila dula long, kela number long, can reach out to them. I fem fanam for kula mimbe den in prison states la and in TRRC la recommendation or minia lonko ime beke pari ye dolkele and the beke kan demanding but I confirm le ko tonya mansa kunna be nafaring kula le purka implement coming cool data nyame modul fam bije ye wol bay do kola bari yes ambanin la dolla yoko kisi priya confirm nata mburum molkan yaje ko mari kana tara do wala because atole mentioned the NTRRC adversely because you be mu kulleti minni alon ko current state of affairs for accountability. Nay, accountability Gambia kan ngamira is a way forward for mute. You're muted. You're on mute, Nay.
Sorry, I'm muted. Yes, because accountability is akumayatale because nim banko man accountability soto wole mu ko momo mengo men diate yake wole m dictatorship because ne aje bi mbesiring mol ka mengo menke minister sol sunyaro be ke kanjang public service sunyaro ibukela doko ka nyama mbebe wurila price sol be high kan masakora because ya jele ko muhani mol me yetajarante yalke mol me ye kurungol ke hani bi ikanale dro ye dum bangkok ye doko soto ye doko dila mansa kunda ye doko hani tol Gambian ol fanan because yalon koku fanan fo ngam fan jube Gambian ol fanan ka tariyale ka foko ali ngabula ngabula ning alala ali nga tuje and wayatinna mol men ka kurungol ke kan ko dol sunya ika tajarante yak ika continue ka ke ka folo ko Gambian ol lem after ikanado ye balal so funga lua fanan tuje lua ye mol fanan kulu ye kulu rol ke mol me yalo ko e sunyalo ke ye mol la kodol pisir pasar mol la kodol ta ya kelefo banko mantano nyato wo mo sifal nin lua ye mutantul fana nyanta make so la ko ye kulu because ni ye kulu ibaje la ko everybody mo be silale nte be silale pour ka tamen datementi nte be silale pour ka ku ke men nyana because ni aje manya be kering hani dia muta minister sol la sometime ni me hakitu yenen because ya jele ko fente kelaje because after all masakunda be falin nale the same minister sol bite wala dunde ta dundi masakunda doto the same minister sol bina ntol fongo be wala he ali tuje ali balale abantale o ha bari nyim manjare nyinna so nyine mu problemoti because ngajele mol me tajarante yake ya jamela taimo ye mol fa ye kol beke inatale nga mol dolje be support iba fala ko habari da mante munate so nyina tinna accountability kontibo wala ya do ko klande gambeto katuntol fongo nka konti tajarante ya nka sembentu yale nka tajarante sembentu andu nim parita nga wuri because nim mo man kontibo mol kam menke man kontibo woto tajarante be kontinelale wala ne ben tajarante bini aje bi mobe wura cimento masa kuna la kutije bari kabri wuro sene ko ye ha sain iba Senegal sol bula wole na for how many months wuro kita mola kutije barote fintila e diamu dunia be ning emergency kita call duta president ka fintile wala minister member reswa ka fintila explain mole member caring hanna tara man accept o man songal bara aka fintila ay ko esim ni masa kunda buka fintila ay ko explain ni mana the only time masakunda ka finte ay ku explain wole mu ko ka kol bondi nyama ko wole mu ni tol fongo mo fm fo tole ni tol fongo UDP fm fo tole otumo le kana e finti bari buke je finti how many weeks Mustafa ngamira atamita 1 week la mobe wuri la nyin cement kola meje finti ibela hajo to potola because cement soto asota amasoto ametol distop itol bela bungol konole ila bunyi mal ni lafta cimento la be bor la isita fo Senegal fa ya samba ya na dum because motol be bulle mol soto iba natile ibela hajol to potola ila badingol well close one soul wol mantara batala nyin kon so kontibo akumayata bakke bankoto kontibo tol bela hani dingo ni awulu ika kontibo le because ni afo dingo ko ibita karamongo amanta karamongo inata teacher nata fo ko kari dey ndey wo amanna karamodo tili saba bara ka boyla bungo konole akata karamodo yalo fo yo dini ngo kontibo fo ya regle fo ko ke sometimes sa mari bute wala ya ma fe ko wolem kon o be mu kontibo leti say munan tol mansa kunda mu ko kontibo no ngaje ko inyenta tala doro mi ngomi ndete yata because say barola nyim mansa kunda mol ka fole ko ni ma meg barola nyim mansa kunda ita meg la ko te dol ka wole moy ko ka wole
akamul na ko sainde baro man sakunda mol kada je pour kefang enrich wala mol kata kodinino la mol bukata pour banku doku wala killing fulanjango fana mimbe kera kamul de mol kata rajele pour ke harje dongo bar not ka banko doku anu saying karte fayo fele asitale already abina si kane 2026 presidential election malom se mol nyamendi no menala pour ka foyeko nyinan karte fayo amu accountability de pour kaje ko foiria ay bank konko e bank ko kumuto tajirente yati wala feofe mu keresi bangoti fola feofe mu monene di nyokona moti anyanta bannala pour mole nying understand Gambia dingol ordinary ma fo minni alon ko be place to de par minni man dara place to bataka futa min la bake ndey ngamra woliya disable ka long fo
yes woliya disable ka long Mustafa because generally ni ko electiono carte fayo ni aje carte fayo kake wole mu ko yem carte fay mole ya sindije ni ya sindije amari kanetele ya ay dani roke ko nsula tela carte wala ni carte dina mbe lopitano lola andu ninga lopitano lo mba mek sula borol ye keje doctorol ye keje ni sata isitano lopitano dosi na fana voye ko ni carte dina mba mek sula doko e sonaya mo isi doko sotono isaje ko ni sata ko dosi tarano bulu yeta lopitano so ni nata ni dani wol bela fa pareta ni sitanak sanji lulu ye wole soto pour ye même foye ya ke ni ma ke no fang sanji nyantana le konti boke na foko sanji o sanji na banta nyantana le ka foko ndol nga nyine falto le de bari nga nyine keno manyindo keno isaje moli a jube be mune kala foybe foloko iba fole ko no nyanta kala tenne moli aji bari wo fango bukake so sai mbita election to musa fa kamen fo 2026 ndeka loko 2026 ninga baro jube bare sanji lulu kele nyin sanji lulo ntolbe batale kono nde malo Gambia di jamale ba fala ko namanke minister solti ani melbe baro no makanga kono melbe baro close because haninga lon ko MPP mol fana be mantara nyim pati du lato ibe so nyil damante ga nyil damale je wollebe sewu kan wollebe mala kan ibe yirwa kan ibe fresh ring ikaje wollela bari banko talantewo be nsafo ko atata fo 90% nyim banko mobe kabatale kumbo mano be serling abe gena la fala abe serling simento dabe koleyaring say mbuka jele fang ni amoy ko adabe koleyari amandan da koleyato bari mbuka je nga jele fanang ibe fengol wafila banko bebe wafila say nga nyim president je ko be wole wafila mon man balanko president nyanta dadala le because amang kati situation be nyame bari ya ta ya wafi $4 million ya mafi port authority mol malon port be mun kelala mola dulal bebe wafila so mbang mansa kunda ngajele ko wafiro e tariata wolela pour ka kol dada hanin na poro ya wafi bari sa nga menje ja oil fango natale ko problem mo be poro leto wala tinayto la bagasol man dunna bari cimento be tol bulle so ye poro wafi mun nafaale ngoti den because tulungol man lono sa be dolbe ja oil blame kanko ye kulungo menta bari wote diamoti poro ni aje masakunda ya wafi le pour ay skole sona ya bari akamundo ko ay problem mo fango dina ground le say molbulu so baro felta belela kabrim baro bina naye memfo wala muko nanata security reform be kelale abe security reform kelale ndesi la police ol be lipala ndesi la nying arrest detaining be kelan unnecessarily me alonko hani totota ya foko barole totondi ye samba ye kumandi questionina ye mutaje bari ni baro support hani ye mo banen de way kam banen ila MPP mol katara nennale na wolo to ni nga fengo fensa fe isi neng ye banen ye bulanna and sign hani la special some of the special advice ni la minister so like a fake profile le da ikaneng that as I said mbe time la mbe time kam so ibaje la ko nyin situation la bije baro security ama wo reform adate je in fact ay menke fang ay sembentu yale pour ka doko ka te wole muko haniyate neng ya ye muta andu baro nata menke na denjaro sa aning MP sol itatele ye fang musafa maro mandinga kam ye fang sansang ye fang sansang luwa me ya lonko ni neng isi ares bari ntol Gambia dingol isi bane ne ye kobe ke fente bolaje to faste bolaje hani politician ol fango ni e bane fente bolaje bari ni e baro na la minister sol na la public servant sol aning MP sol ni e wol neng ye fan sansanne luwa bije me ya lonko isi ares ye samba kitula so ye baro fango la selfish je birim baro sita nyim banko kono baro ye kool menke aka foko mano lo mu suñar duraleti la suñar duralen wala na nyim manol be lo kan mol buke moyno nyim manalo la ani dulal be to manoti je baro sitale security amon reform baro ya te fan security aya fan sansang ko mote fenkela mota nenna mote fenkela aya fan sansang instead of ay Gambian nol sansang ayentol tanka ka banko tanka ka Gambia dingol tanka ko haniye moma fo nendiro aman nice baro fongole kasi ay nendiro ke ni temu lidati ikata ibe lola be mol nenna ila minister so be lola be mol nenna ila public servant so be lola be mol nenna so it is a fono mole ko nendir ko how do you reconcile that so big problem security reform ke mbota je fanan public service reform mol be o fanan fole baro ma o fanan ke in fact ayena public aya politicize aya be ke politique dulate ni mu MPPT wotu mole iteka ila hajol ka jare ka doko ke baro fongale afa ko momo yalon ko na ko ndata politique ko ni mu public servant ota to sa fe because yalon ko mo oppositionality baro fongale so instead of a public service ning reform baro ma reform in fact aya politicize la gena bambandi ya jame mbota nu menkono baro ya murundi jeel pour ka fan sansan TRC fele nata o fana mu agreement ole kabrim baro be mansa kudata la akaba implement la ngaje menketa aya choose alafta mel kontibola ay wol kontibo amala fi mel kontibola amoke fa preta fang anata nyi mol nati ke doko dila na mansa kundato ay wol nati ko de ke employ so baro nyin kol be baro fongole ka fo wotumo ngari me bako mano be jilale mano maja ajita fa kala fa koku ya fo baro ko baro banko kola ya baro ka fo ko dunia belem bari hanin tol be siri nyim bankol men kono akole ya tele bare man sakunda ka fintina ne ka bring electricity ko kola ya ta jang no we jang man sakunda e fenkole dada ka mol makoy isi kodindin dila ya la fayla electricity jola ndo ma fo ko Gambia si woke bari anyanta ko regulator saja ay sona ya ni price solje banku dingol ka men an ila jo sain iko MP sol lebe la jo la fakan Gambia dingol haynan hani be men an la ni ko do ni an ila paso dama ndega molje le wol ka fuko am bari nafate ngata do ko la katu ikanjo mena wakas dan paso leto bari ndeka fuko bari tado just to get the yaje yetara do ko la bari paso akadan woleto no wol beje le so baro man fenneke ninga baro kontibo nyin kari lulo baro e do ko men da make wolem ay silol men ayalo wo sulo fanan allo na e million silolo million na 2 million o tata ila pocket do sa in kata election ole walim ikaje isi koku ke budgetoto pour ka kodo sunya parce que ngamo ile fang budgeto fango what they did was they did ikafo nyadi again ima debate ya pushle instead of emergency there's a name for it amnyana tatula ya kele emergency do ay tambi isaje parliament fango ta debate la so sign tol fango that means ko ni budgeto ni aje talante obe ibatala le ya dundi election to because ni budgeto fango jube kodo be jama be dame wolem sunya dulati this devil running cost ila nyin abe operation and all these things so nyine mo big problem oti so baro man chan soto ndemaje Gambia dingo me yalon ko i honesta iba fala foni ini baro ibe baro ibu minister tide o ibu baro la do ibe do ko la baro ya ini baro be nyobulu bari mam moje men honesta kasi ka foko tonya Gambia bitakane me murkan koma na dindingol ni ajube dindingol men kata bakwe ikamira ko sometimes ikamira ko nin banku dolem ibe state of emergency commandilale because dindingol kata nyamen ibe fala dorong akamuda ko mansakunda manke ante ka fele ko mansakunda maybe alafta nyine la because ni tata ye tala isaje ye tala banko be farin criminal la criminal be farin tep
but me jakali ndey mim ñu be ba caring malum meno what went wrong my party ade fundita la clearly aka term limit condemn ako banko bitakan na nyama Ismaila Sise fanana ako banko bitakan na nyama Momodu Sabali fanan the same so I don't know malum fo ndol ka minje wala ronta bang fo itul ka minje I don't know they malum where's the wrong.
Yeah, but Mustafa wo easy tale nyil hadamu tale
especially my aning Ismaila
nyil hadamu tale because ibe sirine motol be bulu air conditioner be moto kono isi la tinted glass o yele nole nin karo fata da paso be lowering because we jolale other extra tingoli ka melta wala tinna because mu just ila on ibe faneje imantara gambe dingol la imantara doko kela gambe dingol la ibe doko kela baro ani fangol wala tinna e kawfo because ibe sirim palaso mento ika domoro men ki je ika men soto je wala tinna iba fola ko banko bitakan of course because woman de surprise ko banko bitakan because abetaka itola ijube iparenya jube how many Gambian jol le ka pareno teng how many Gambian mo le ka malamala teng Gambian ol be jaring ibe funkularing why is these people niye dawda ibe malamala ibalol bina ibalol be lafala ibe fan enjoy la so wol ndol ma expect ko wol bina iba folantole ko banko manta kata be takane so ntol lenyanta faida sotola ngol nyanta falale ngasi na make so ko 2026 baro ay budget because na e memfo amake na e lahido menta ay wol lahido bele tinya baro sita jele don ka fan nafa wato fangon ika fo nyaadi le fan malum fo nafa baro le makala because ka fanne nafa
nafa
ha nafa barolem because atek afande nafa ama mo fenke imagine hanala MPP ya londi kodole kan aman loko ye policy le soto aman loko i believe ta ikamenke no alota kodole to ni la sonkol je abe kodo ni la feko je abe plaso ani sonko ya lo wole kan so minister sol the same thing minister sol men kasi ko banko bita of course ibe o folale because iba enjoy kan ne musafa there is no wo diamo fambu ka jamfa ni te itolje e gambe dingolje gambe di obe sanada nola ye gambe bankol beke gambe dingol beke sanada no lalti ye gambe talante wol fanam beke bakwe dingol so itol ye mune soto ibe men fola ye mune soto ye FPRC bel nati ibe na mansa kunda ron kan sain gambe le kaje ye fem fo barola MPP mol wara minister sol ye police station o commandi ko ye arrest gambe damma denga woje gambe damma police sol fana ye wuli yake because ye commandi le gambe damma denga jula so mbe ndolbe muru kanne bari manyen na sonna wala nyanta balan na balare because ntole nyin keloke baro man tafaske baro sitale ya diala ya maleva spoon food ya domorindile nga domorindile asitale nga diala baro man tafasleke ala nyin diamu babe nga sacrifice kamel 22 years musa fa 22 years mo be kelela kambe dinjol le fata in that process kama jinno mego ate baro e muneke asitale apareta nga ko fele nga dadale fa nga tabi ay gay ko domo bari amang Gambian dingol la julojo baro man tul la julojo bari atutantol fanan ne bulu na make sure ko akana muru 2026 because ndemam fenje baro ye menke hani nyin silo mol ba dia mol be siari ne because mol ka criticize abetinya kan abejang people are saying all kinds of things because ama beleke dulal be jakasiring ko dol be sunyara left right and center because baro ta fango abebe seniari ne auditors ol ya safele ya be safe abije so evidence ol bentol bulle nyi manke ko ndele afo wala Mustafa le afo wala kari afo no a evidence ol be lorinje so ntol fanantol banku dingol nyanta silale ngana nyanto kele nga foko hey election obina ndede inka wole fode ko lu sono sorta aman soto kana carte fay bare simple
asai ni moko eko baro ko lande mam moyedo
wo mun nendiro lete Mustafa nendiri ba katangole ngoti wo mun nendiri ba katangole because scientific at least molul bije pati lulul bije le molul bije isa ka phenomena wo man soto ni ko ilafta barole fayla baroye wo fodoron ye honest ye toñafo bari ka fo koy mammoje wote toñati momo ba fole ko mammoje mba fayla menna woto wo akabarole support ha ndekaje wole nya akabaro support because molbe bije ni man la fi Halifa Sallah doyla ni isa jo UDP ni man la fi UDP doy bije ni man la fi sobe ya bije ni man la fi GDC bije ni man la fi UP dem la mi jeda bonyo la pati NUP wol fana bije ni man la fi there is another fenke Ibrahima wol fana bije ila pati I forget the name you have all this ñil bele fi seta baroti ñile 40 baroti ñile Mansakunda Tamaniya understand baroti ñile Gambia kanu baroti because deka ñil men befo ila Gambia kano nga je konol ñil be gab kanu baroti baro date Gambia la kuti al nene mo baro je lola ku yeke Gambia wuli afoko ali massa tada ibukaje nama baro wato na diam to akantol nenne ha na wulta dada ayen neng imagine saying ala public servant soul a whole governor wo fananka sile ayen has kaneng so this is it so baro la Mansakunda mane so fontol mumuneti ite momenta ye carte faye ika jo ika domorindi ya civilized ndi isi momo we si abe nenna amanta faske ke has for 10 years abe hasla so wona fa momuneti carte fayama fo Gambian dol fana ye song falingoma ntole song falingala Gambian no funga karang Mansakunda sindi ka jindi Mansakunda sindi ka jindi because ninga wo karang ni nata imando ko ke nge jindi nga do sindi imake nge jindi nga do sindi sambi Mansakunda be sila la nya because iba fala ko ni mando ko ke ibente bondel jani na second time sila ibe bondel wole ka ke jang ya ni mando ko ke ike bondel so fo Gambian no nga karang Mansakunda sindi ka jindi ngana silala nga mol sotole ni momo konyoko ima moso do même fisata baroti political party kono ha wo mun nendir ba kata walati baro me yalon ko ama marana bulubalo wo mun nendir ba kata walati ndeka fo mole ko ni be baro support la afo bari kanan mol ne because wo mun nendiroti ka fo ko ima moje iba fayla menna no ite mu baro support la leti ha because ibijele mol bijele Mustafa mel competenta mele Gambia kanu Gambia ding kendol ibe jele andu ibe lola iba la karto dani kan ndeka fu mo kana bakarte fay baro 2026 mo kana fay baro anyanta talale na eta bismillah abeta ayeta kaira ngata kaira kato ala situation aka kenya men aman sustainable de atita aka banko samba nyamen atita baro damate sila jimbanko kono aba fan enjoy la nala minister sol wote kala molbe fakan simple thing l'hôpital jube Royal Victoria Hospital for Edward Francis small fan je jube abe nyamen barobe siring state house ning l'hôpital no ika tamaleta o malo wo malo baro dati je baro la kuti je baro dati Gambia kula fento adati na kuto among respect among bunya among horoma a horoman tayata Gambia kangon so why munak dantul ba karto fayda munatina yin time limit may ba fokan ni ajendol ka for time limit because na mansa kundale kuriyata na presidentol kuriyata itajarante yata so nin time limit mankije ibe tarala jele fo faw foni fata onge bondije dol man pare wala koteke man pare soldier o kana ka mol bondi man pare la koteke man pare koteke president taraje fa man pare a koteke mbare tamena wala mko ye taraje 2 time ye finti because kuriya Africa mansa kunda be wala andum Gambia fanan biring after Jawara kuriya dro mansa kunda kurungol nga wala so time limit wala bentol fanan makoy nola pour que bondi isa ya
my fati binka wo justify no nay
bari my fati bala interest la my fati yala interest je and wo you know and it's so sad asatale my fati me yalon ku fang bi abe bula baro men noma woning AFPRC mol bele be nyoto the same my men sofata AFPRC la time wo mayle ni wol bebe siring may be sila aka time limit justify ndema la mo yalo debuka nyil la moy mbuka ministre so la ku la moy mbuke la fen la moy defani ngaje fen safe because take afole ko you know what ni ministre so ni be president special advisor so lem ministre so lem barole kije let Baro deal with them nde Baro wala muntela headache because Baro nga carte fayatele nga mandato dia tella pour ay banko samba ni ministre sol be ibebe je domorol la ibebe je la interest la ibe la interest ibe wala la je so mbuke la moy because imang important because what put them there wala baroti wala tinna ila domor dula ifanal ka kantale so manan tol gambe dingol tol fanantel na banko kantala ngana banko kanta nyilbela domor dula le kantakan ibela kodita dula le kantakan ibela doku dula le kantakan ibela dimbaya la yiruwa le kantakan ibela muso la domorol ni de kantakan ibela family le kantakan ibela korda le kantakan ndol don banku dingol muna nan tol tele banko kantala jamale be o kantala tol mota kala mote fen kantala tol tol nyanta kantala fangole andu wole mu dinkende yati because dinkende ya wole mo ikallole ila banko e ne jentol be diamulam be dem yam tol man haajo soto le dol ni na full time do ko lem nin na dimbaya lem nin na haji dolem wo be nka bulale na because Gambia ndol man dula soto ndeka fo mole ko man dula soto na man ki Gambia ha Norwegian citizen ole munti de ni Norwegian passport ole be sere nin na everything janem nin na do ko lem everything I'm comfortable but man dula soto fo Gambia ani no way ko bebe na sa fo ko barka no way because no way ko bele din tela ha aya bele din na me yalon ko na banko fongota dilana na banko ma dino na but no way a be din tela le ay opportunity dinna ay kolbe dinna and I'm happy jang bari Gambia wala munte yati ni haje bi tubabol man to respect because Gambia be nyamenem or Africa be nyamenem ni haje tubabol be ben discriminate like racism kila discrimination in racism because na bankol be nyamen because ibuka ke bank din dolla in South African sol ka taraja ne ke treat nice hani sa in Rwanda sol fa moy ka taraja ne ye treat nice because la banko be nyamen Chinese sol ka taraja ne ye treat nice because la banko be nyamen he can tol dorone torahal because na banko be nyamen na leader sol be nyamen fu ngo faling ndote tara no nga tara toroxla na bankol to ngana wandi bankol to nimmol forina sol be me bije yen tolta yen torhal fana ngana kelo la je be kelo la jang be kelo la jana wadita alinga ngasi mbeye si nga fu ngam fa nyininka nsu lafta Gambia nyaadi la mbe lafta Gambia nyaadi la mun sifa Gambia to lafta munela fu lafta nyin sifa Gambia me men kono ibe da bori la ibe dani rola ibe mol dani la ibe sada dano la ibe ta dulalto school fees wato na sita ibe bori na ibe ko do nyina ibe school fees jolmina domor wato da paso isi bori yeta wo nyini doko ye bori fo e bata doko buka soto no koku isula tala fo e borala funtol fontol mune kitantol anu moma kentol kana manke masakundati mo masakundan sa bondi no carte faydula mona nante carte fayla nga bondi mo manya na carte fayla bare fana anala ministre sol 2026 electional ninga baro la carte o konti wonyante kala baro anala ministre sol anala dimbaya anyante kala woleti isaje ko momo be lola ibe silal iba floko ye ko ke baro la bari sijan nim baro bitani nana baro ina 2026 win na ya win abal bulije because yentol bali carte fayol yentol bari carte fayola de ida ngata fo Gambia ngata fayje so you bantol boleje because yalon kontol ntol nganna rights lon so su please ndeka folela banko manta Mustafa banko manta andu wo hani dindingol ya lonne Gambia mote Gambia member fala nyoko banko kata ida maleka enjoy andu ikatamba la le sai kala ikela wero fongo selendi le so da itala bataje la itala nyada batari ngol jela itala balo batari ngol jela itala samatol mem batata fo be tinyata itala dedika tinyare ngol jela they don't want to see because woketo remind le ko almando ko kede njube so near tinted glass o sabande abebe dibering ital jela so ita do ko la yena yetela korda so wolol be santo ite mo jela hani la nebo so le malo me be keri hani o silol fange tama je potol dol ka fanyo kan min sa dol potol ka trajele because fo wilol le be buri sina ya sada alkan fa lafta wole la wato wati jiol be sarela alkan ale mo me employ ale do ko dila ale everything dila wol kana ka jiol sara alkan ni bi am de ka foko anyano mun anyan be jola be anyana munila akoro be jola be anyane kan no ila doko ke nimbaro yala doko ke ani mote jotela kabrim baro ye place o ta Mustafa mol bele baro support mol le lota baro kan ya support hani mol ya atako abuka femfono abada mol balanta baro sita tere akono fata o tay mo ala silipa sol be bataring be silipa sol duna be wafila dula wana la khaftanol pi anata jagna malo fo gayna malo whatever abe wol be dunna samato be mala kan dendi kol be mala la dula be hearing ibe garde la baroko no say be faraw la le be ikafo nyaade faraw fa ngote de be karla le malo man ni kol ka fa yidi fadi farti la le a fartan dol bulu asita drum a fartita ninga menoko ayentol neng ninko ayentol neng yemo employ ayenek Mustafa nte mbedo ko la jang as a manager nyama ma hani na staffol melia lonko i koleyata ibe do ko lan koto ye kol ibe hani ye koleya natina nyama ma keneng hani nyama in fact ka diamu nyado fan nyama ma because nga lonko ibe nsambala to the union ibe nsambala to the union to make sure yenza na do that there is number tribunal nyamama so wati mba nga sile nga hanibe mfacha la nga sile nga jube nga luwa jube nga kol jube nga los jube mba handula nyame baro sita drong farsita mol bulu bengo min diata ka fo mole ye employ nin nga je baro be nyun ko nka waru le nka fo ko wow so ntol sita mba accept la ni diam de ka fo ko ite ngani ite ika mune fontole iko tol be kamfari ne muna na ite kamfala 9 good years ye palaso di momena 9 good years ya jo president Gambia menene josoto baro be josoto ya be diala ya employ ye ko be dila hani bi ite buka mano sanno ibuka tabir kendo tabir domono ni sasa da ibuka tano l'hôpital paracetamol fay buka sanno e fay molbe bori na Facebook to be mol danila ko do left right and center ibe mol danila help la sometimes ikabala faale fan because modol be buka mo be no help no so like afu ma atembulu ano woka ipalo ka faale because ikalon ko Gambia no proud totole Gambia no pride tale Gambia no ka kibira fanaye na sita fa fofo baro ye beke sadada ni lati so muna na mote kamfala jamale te kamfala ni situation no membe Gambia fo ye kamfa anu ndika wo fo kamfa tale Nkam fari ngol be se andu be continue kam fala as long as boro be sirinje be kam fala le. And wo kam fa be continue because wo kam fala batina la kelo be continue la. Kelo be continue la nimbaro. Na be kelela le mbe tonya fola ene ala minister sol mbe observe kanne ye koku fo parliament me manke tonyati mbina mba safela le nga tonya safe mi ngomen diatel ye mbaneng ye koko be kena abe buluje ndela kuti je niano e fanga diate. That's it. So Mustafa 2026 momo ya foko mammo je mba fayla menna ite kabarole support a fole doron e kabaro support because nendir bakata ngolem anu gambe no be nyanta baylale gambe ndingo nyanta o diamo be nyanta baylale momo ya fo moye a bay a diamo bay ya diamo bay two coalition without coalition mo kana fay bare as simple as that mo kana sila incumbency mo incumbency diamo le woti ngete sindije nga motol dila nga soja rol dila nga dokulal dila ten ide wo sembo beta yata ikanante kankote ndol meye wo sembo da over 2 million Gambians meleta 900 last time election 900,000 mele katto fay hadama din killing nga nafoko wala sembo so ton tol be de carte fay dula hani ibe sembo so le ni nga fe foye police wol commande en ades ha bari carte fay dula wombele kanje because nin dunta je mo bukeje mo meje natalti je camera ti je fenti je mo bukalon ya fay men isi tale ya dundi katat ye baro bondi 2026 nin gambe no le baro sindi abal buluje honestly abal buluje because amam think Mustafa anyanta talale baro has to go because amam banko sambano anala minister so banko sambano mo le daha nendi rola at least mo le respect demanding gambe dingo nga doko di mella ye respect godi yeah
ina barabake
gambe dingo gambe nyata kamfala situation membe gambe nyata kamfala
thank you so much ndey budum wato dara fanfange wato sita be min gelanse sarodi akukum fajang fo sibitinala se sarodi ndey.
Yeah, abarka bake. Thanks a lot. Abarka bake Mustafa, as usual. Wato wati to make sure everything bijang kol bijang. And again, the chairman of Emmanuel Fanang, thanks la bake and very good ko. Abela fila na ala isaja kujama bundi mole nyamo kono because akal munta kontrol nga resource pale soto. Me alon kon sa use no bari mbukalong. So it will be very good thing asoto katika kolbe faram fati nyole sa ngalong moja makatara police oli arrest idi mo buka diamno la mol sitara kumbola man lawyer so soto say nyimbe you know isi nyimbe use no le e makoy so sa fa fanam barka bake na paneli sol fanam meje commentator sol Suleiman Sol Baji Aziz Bamba Mas mbebe fanam kontona mbe la moyrani jubelan balbe fanam kontona la barka bake wato wati albe mol la jang and asi suggestion of an national topic sol for na jeme alongo ale amiransi jube asa send also comment box or even Skype or Facebook agency what topic all ta because after ka call bondi nyamo kono janni election obina because ni man of eta ala barka bay
ina barande comme ndey min fo msake o nyama momo isela fina ila thoughts here because 2026 dobi yen dol fango e kan defang e kan dol fang confuse le dobi le several ka bonde left right and center le but in the several minka kumaya bake jama mbugol so bare ben number fanan drop la jenne ni min lafto kala because several minke je bake ka bonde political party le ay mi ale ke kinam pour que la cool promote ani usifa bari lafta atondi the viewers ani lamoir lal ani mol min ni alon ko bonde ground ni mi ye fenje yalong yamira ko banku dingol basula la kalong ise asafe jang na number mu plus 44789801129 wala no number ti and then nimi yake comment box fanang you know mbaje la isaje ngoke kachata de coming ale yamira wala sula quality ay femfo jam fana Emmanuel ay femfo ba trial ale momi yalong ko wala marata TRRC la recommendation committee la modole tofu jang
yeah I have
mba trial namba ko na diamo yininga na binala as a fem fo nyewdo fanan ko mara bake but ordinary citizens banku dingol minni baby jang mba min fala alnga den kanna nga nyoso hakilola nga kacha tal drop jang isaje ngol kacha wolon kuti because nite be base oibe manka man kunda oibe wulli fode kunda o gunjur kuta ibe dunia Gambia dawda itela sula ko dolbi jen tol molong nebin dolbe komboten dala ma fa wala gunjur ni ngaden den zader wala problem wala finance wala non bar min be santo be mo Gambian ko ledi la problem fa fa momo yalo yamo e ko be kere isa nyin number ko man o isa message drop jang inshallah on dol be o ka jala ndey malum fa nga fo ko se saro di ngeten to ngeje baraka ko
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yo, budul lama lani jibelal wato insenyi na lambe dan na janne fo sibit na la inshallah civic education program kana sibit o sibit like about 5 o'clock UK time kata 7 o'clock kanya wala fe Cameroon Sky Pro Radio and TV services lal bandi malo Mustafa Jamme mimbe sirim program o kunna fo sibit na la inshallah alimbara.